Welcome to your Monday Daily Delivery. Michael Rand here, Patrick Reusse here as well. Patrick, I think I texted you Sunday saying we probably could do two shows based on everything that happened over the weekend, and it's even hard to figure out where to start between Vikings losing an important game at San Francisco. Dalvin Cook gets hurt in that game. Byron Buxton signs a contract extension. The Gophers beat the Badgers to get the axe. Wild win, beat the defending Stanley Cup champs. The Timberwolves have a big win against the 76ers, but maybe for something different, Patrick, today, let's start with the Buxton extension, because that's been a storyline that's been hanging over us for months. I got to admit, everything that I had seen and heard, and even talking to Phil Miller last week, made it sound like that a trade was the more likely outcome than an extension. Were you surprised that this got done?
Yes, I was. And I think that it's, you get him for 7 years for 100 guaranteed. That's about as good as you were going to do. When they were saying 80 was their number, I'm sure that they wanted that to, take his number down from what was probably 120 or something like that. So with the fewer incentives and more guaranteed money. So yeah, I'm a little surprised that he went for it, and it also kind of refutes our whole theory that he was still bitter at the Twins because of something that happened 4 years ago when he didn't get called up, or 3 years ago. I am surprised, and now he's got to play. I mean, I don't know. It's funny. You mentioned Dalvin Cook, and you could mention Byron Buxton, and they're the same guy. One of them doesn't, neither of them play. And Cook, probably has a higher percentage of games than he does, but he's got to play. And he turned me off last year because I thought he missed way too much time with those injuries. They're calling it a broken hand. He had a broken finger. That okay. I guess that takes 30 games. But running to first base and getting a sore hip, you should miss 37 games like he did. And he showed me very little desire to play, and last year. And I mean, he has a desire to play, but he doesn't have this over the top desire to play. Not last year anyway. And he's got to get that. He's got to, I don't know, I know that it's not easy to play with Doc Baldelli walking around the clubhouse trying to convince you not to, but he has got to play, and we'll find out if he will. He'll be 28 years old in December. So we shouldn't be asking questions about 28-year-olds. If you're a star and you're 28, we shouldn't wonder, oh, wow, I wonder if we'll get anything out of him this year. He's been at a 2018, was it that he was? No, was it 2017 he was the Platinum Glove winner?
I think that's right, yeah.
You've gone through this for 4 years. 4 years of this nonsense. He's got to play, and we'll see if he does, because as I've said all the time, they're 20% better in all areas when he plays. He's their only true great athlete. He's, they're better obviously in the field by 20%. Their pitching's better because he goes and catches everything. And, obviously they're better offensively when he's playing too. A little more power coming into his game. We'll see. He was fantastic last April, but overall, to me, last year was a flop, and we'll see if he can play. It's that simple.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. Go ahead.
I was over in St. Paul, saw him run out that triple, and then he doesn't play for another week or 10 days that time. I mean, he just ran out of triple. Let's play. Come on, get over there the next day. We got to get him back. We got to make sure he's 100%, blah, blah, blah. As Mike, I've said this all the time. Here's your standard for whether you should play or not. It's not 100%. It's not 90%. Is Are you good enough to play today? Can you play today? That's the standard for health in baseball. It's a 162 game season. And if you can go out there at whatever percentage it is, if you are good enough to play, you got to play. And that's, that organization, as an organization, they have to get back to that theory that, that you should always err on the side of the guy playing, not playing. And they err on the side of him not playing, and that's one reason they were a clown show last year.
I agree with that. I think that's a good, it's got to be an organizational philosophical shift. I don't know if it'll happen. It seems like that's kind of the way they've operated for a few years now, but it did seem it seemed like they were particularly scared last season. I don't know if it was because I think a lot of it was because of 2020 and how strange it was and how they didn't play as much. And they were especially concerned about pitchers and not overusing them and stuff like that. Hopefully 2022 will be a little bit more normal in that regard, since everybody did get a full season and a full minor league season last year. But more to the point on Buxton, yeah, I mean, it just felt though like that's something they had to get this done. I just feel like they would have, the level of regret and the level of, fans talk all the time. I'm done with these guys. I'm done with this. I'm done with that. They would, people still would have come to games, still would have rooted for the Twins. But if you let Byron Buxton walk, or you trade him, someone who's got that level of talent, and then he does go somewhere else and starts playing 75 or 80% of the game instead of 50% of the games, and he's impacting them the way he did at the start of last year, that's just that would be a massive organizational blow that I don't think you could afford it, even if we fully acknowledge that this could be a flop if he doesn't play.
And yeah, I agree with you, but you also know what the narrative becomes next year if he misses 75 games again, right? How could these idiots give this guy this contract? So, the good thing about being fans, maybe even media guys, is we can change our mind. We can say, hey, they did this. Way to go, Twins. They had to do this, and then he didn't play. And how could they be that stupid to give this guy the contract? So we're in good shape. The fans are in good shape here. We can go either way, right? Yes. Okay, they did what they had to do, or how could they be that stupid? They paid him and he won't play. So I know people get upset when I got a little hard time for putting Buxton on my turkey list this year, but to me, it's the track record is now his. This all started when these morons, they were down in Puerto Rico and he had a headache and he wasn't hitting. So they decided to put him on the DL for a migraine, figuring they're genius. They could send him to Fort Myers and get him straightened out at the plate. And he goes there and fouls the ball off his foot, breaks his toe. And that's when all this chaos started, because you had to take a guy who had a migraine for 2 days and put him on the disabled list. That was, boy, they outsmarted themselves on that one. I'll tell you that.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake for 24/7 gaming, fun restaurants and bars, and luxurious hotel rooms. And join Club M to bask in the rewards. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
No, I didn't even have Turkey of the Year written on my list, but because this was a few days ago. But we should probably talk about that for a minute before we get to the Vikings. You had Buxton on your list. You had a lot of who I would have thought were the usual suspects. Got to admit, I didn't see for whatever reason it wasn't front brain, but I didn't see it coming who you had as your Turkey of the Year this year.
How could you pass on Gerson Rosa?
I know. For some reason, I forgot about him. I don't know why. It's like we forget about him so soon. It's only a month ago.
Now, people got to remember the turkeys are not based on wins and losses.
No,
okay?
No.
It's based on foolishness is one of the big assets of winning the turkey. And the guy comes in and they run we're replacing that evil bachelor Tibbs, right? This grumpy old bachelor. He doesn't even have a family and he barks all the time. Well, wait till you see our new family operation now. here comes the two twins to run up and sit on daddy's knees while he's introduced at the press conference. And we're going to start talking about what a great family we are before we get that press conference over. And within months, you're hearing that everybody over there hates him.
Yeah.
So the family and other things happened, obviously. And he gets fired, and 15 months later. And as I said, there's people mad that the Twins were reviewed more harshly. Well, the Turkeys you can't wait till next year on Gerson Rosas. This is your one shot, right?
It'd be awfully weird if you picked him in 2022. Let's just say that.
That's right. You got with Falvey and Levine and the rest of the fellas, they still got a shot next year.
That's
if they
true.
turn around and have this kind of year next year, yeah, they have stronger credentials. The other thing about on the Twins angle there is, 2019, 2020, they won 60% of their games, right? Over 60% of their games. So, they had a bad year. Let's see if they can get themselves out of it. So, and it certainly wasn't going to be Rocco, for God's sakes.
No, for whatever reason in my head, I had Falvey and Levine as the leaders in my head for some reason, just because I know how much the Twins, when the Twins are bad, it seems to hurt you personally sometimes.
Well, it disgusts me. Yes. But a lot of things these guys do drive me nuts, but not to the point that I'm writing them off. I think they're just part of the new modern baseball, which is run by 38-year-old guys from Eastern colleges who are dedicated to ruining the game to see if they can take I was counting up pitchers. I didn't really get into it, but I was counting up number of World Series pitchers used since Bill James wrote his book and all these idiots started picking up on it, right? I mean, I think the one year there was like a 7-game series that had 23 pitchers used, and now we got 90 of them. It drives me crazy what they're doing with the fact that we've gone from you can't have a guy face the order the third time so you can't have him face the order the second time, the starter. They're ruining the game, and I don't know what you can do about it, but no bigger baseball fan than me, and I cannot watch 4-hour baseball games with constant pitching changes. So I don't know what you do about it. I guess you just keep losing popularity and let the geniuses run the game with all their numbers. And the difference is they don't swing the bat.
Yes.
You're waiting for pitches. You don't swing the bat. So
yep,
I don't know.
The minute they figured out that waiting for your pitch and striking out and taking a walk, the minute they figured out that was a viable offensive strategy, that's when the game took a turn, let's say.
Anyway, that was their Turkeys, but there's too much to talk about. We got Buxton taken care of.
Yeah, Buxton. Let's get to Vikings. Let's go Vikings now, because the axe was a couple days ago now, but we do got to get to that. If it was for the Big Ten West, that might have been even more exciting, but that's still a big win for the Gophers. Vikings lose. They lose Dalvin Cook to what is now being reported as a dislocated shoulder. They were playing that game basically without their entire starting defensive line from the beginning of the year, and it showed because they could not stop the run. Still, they were in it, had a chance to get get down and get the tying score a couple different times in the fourth quarter. Kirk Cousins doesn't quite get there, but it was kind of the same Vikings game we've seen every game this year. This one, they just came up on the wrong end of it.
Yeah, it would have been miraculous if they won it, because they got outplayed so badly. They, as you said, they couldn't stop the run at all. And usually if that happens, you're going to get beat. But San Francisco, Garoppolo will still give you chances. So it was it would have been one of those. They would have been pulling out a victory even more so than last week against Green Bay. It would have been harder to do it because of the way they had played. But Cousins, Suhan wrote about it today. Cousins just he was rattled again. He just didn't. He had about 5 bad plays that cost him the game. He made a great throw early. I saw, down that sideline at Jefferson, and he made a few good plays, but he's not suddenly going to pop up and be the best quarterback in the NFL like people want to declare him. After the Green Bay game, everybody was all excited, but he'll still, he's going to be good 10 out of 16 times, and he's going to not be so good 6 times, and you're going to have a hard time winning those games. Thing about it is, even with this loss, schedule gets really easy now, and they only got to get to 9, maybe 8, so I mean, that's the West, the NFC is such a mess that if they get to 9, they're in the playoffs. So I think the vision of running down the Packers has been taken care of, though. That's a good win for the Packers to beat the Rams on their home turf there. Rams look like the best team in the NFC 3 weeks ago, and now they've lost 3 in a row. So that was a big win for Green Bay. They keep getting beat up too, though. So who knows? I mean, Mike, this 17-game season, man, it's going to be who survived. It's, who still got their team, and the Vikings have run into it. And we've talked about this before. This Viking season, bad vibe from training camp, and it just, those football seasons have a tendency to run that way, and they might make the playoffs, but they're not going to be healthy enough or good enough to make a run. That's for sure.
Yeah, when you lose Dalvin Cook, I mean, dislocated shoulder, that's got to be a little, it's not probably not just a 1-game injury. And then you're already talking about the defenses, losing all those guys recently. And then Brad Patrick on top of it, everybody was happy last week that the officiating finally went their way. They were right back on the complaining after this game because of what they thought were some missed calls in the San Francisco game.
Oh yeah, well, don't get me started on NFL officiating. These guys are Sean Hockley should be arrested, put in for stealing people's money.
Crimes against football.
28 penalties on Thursday night. And he'll probably have the Super Bowl. The NFL loves this moron. But I don't know. I don't think that had much to do with the outcome. But
no, they were outplayed.
Thing. Zim was from what I saw, a little frantic on the sidelines the whole game. Didn't you think? He was.
Yes.
He wanted this one badly. That's for sure.
Well, it was a big one. I mean, they're both 5-5 going in. I mean, whoever won this one was going to be in pretty good position to feel good about themselves in that playoff race.
Yeah, if you end up tied with them, they get to. Although I don't know how you're going to end up with probably a 3 or 4 team tie, and then that stuff gets goofy. But I mean that they can't stop the run, and all those guys they signed to stop the run. I heard somebody say, "Oh, he spent all his money trying to get guys to stop the run. They can't stop the run." Yeah, well, none of them are playing. That has something to do with it, right? Sheldon Richardson is the only survivor, isn't he?
He's playing some defensive end now. I mean, they got him all over the place. It's looking a lot like last year's defense, which is not a compliment.
No, and it's they're just mediocre, a little better than mediocre, and they enough. I don't care what anybody says. They can't lose to the Bears in Soldier Field. The Bears are bailing out. Khalil Mack is bailed out, and Fields is hurt, and Andy Dalton's just standing there letting you hit him. And so that they got 3 wins. The Detroit next, and then they got 2 left. 2 left with the Bears.
And Pittsburgh's no good either.
Pittsburgh's awful. What they just got absolutely annihilated by Cincinnati, right?
I think so, yeah.
41-6 or something. They're terrible. So they get Pittsburgh, then Detroit. They'll be fine. They'll be 7-6, and then we can stop panicking here.
Yeah. Well,
but they're not. They're people are. The NFL is just crapshoot anyway. Every game's within a touchdown.
Every Vikings game, it seems like, anyway. It's amazing.
Well, yeah, those two they lost right off the bat when they had to go 0-2 and two of those coin flip games right off the bat kind of puts you chasing it all year long.
It does. Patrick, let's talk Gophers here because they beat Wisconsin. It was kind of a shame it wasn't more on the line. It's shocking that Nebraska couldn't hold a lead on Friday against Iowa. That ended up being.
It was amazing. How can you get a punt blocked when you're ahead 21-9? Don't you have like 9 guys between you and the punter to keep them from getting? How can you get a punt block for a touchdown? That's Scott Frost. They're just playing their old normal punt protection because they're afraid of a return. Tell the guy to kick it out of bounds 30 yards up the field, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And then once that happens, what? They kick a field goal at the end of the third quarter to make it 21-9. They get frustrated again. They're down in there and have to kick a field goal. And then you got them and you get a punt block, touchdown. You give up a safety. And then you, 2 interceptions after that, something like that. Unbelievable. How is Nebraska keeping this guy?
I don't know.
He's 1-8 in the Big Ten West this year. It's impossible.
They're turning the corner. They're close, man. They're close.
Yeah.
If you're a Gopher fan, I say keep Scott Frost. Give him a big extension.
Yes, right. What?
If you're a Nebraska fan, though.
When you lose close like that all the time, you're bad enough to lose. That's why.
Yes.
Yeah. In this, who'd they beat? Northwestern. That was it.
I can't even remember. I think so. They were like in every game. That's why they were like a favorite against Iowa, even though they had like 5 fewer wins going in.
Yeah, without their, they would have been if Martinez had played. And they probably would have won if Martinez had played. Although the kid ran around a little, I guess it was okay, but they were. I think they got up to it opened at Pick'em, and they ended up being a 4 or 4.5 point favorite. Where Martinez got hurt, or before they found out he wasn't going to play. But yeah, that's. But I think Iowa got a big break too. That it's not Ohio State. Because Michigan's good, but they're not quite as explosive as Ohio State is. But so where are the Gophers then in the pecking order? You're gonna Michigan State, Ohio State. And Iowa, they should get the 5th game, right? They should be the 5th. They should get the 5th bowl game, right? And you get one of them will go to the playoff. So I would guess, Michigan State's obviously going to be a hot ticket. But they'll get a better bowl game than Penn State, I think. So
yeah, that's possible. I think so. They'll get a decent bowl game out of this, 8-4. And, they played pretty well against Wisconsin. The defense, I'd say the biggest storyline this year was how much better the defense was than maybe I thought it was going to be. Granted, Ohio State's a bad barometer at the start of the year, but they just didn't seem like they had the speed to catch up with the best teams. And maybe they just didn't see another great offense the rest of the year, but they had a shutout against Colorado, and pretty much every other game that they were in was more because of the defense than the offense, even though it felt like the offense had maybe more of the players coming back from last year.
Look, a couple of things. That's right, because you got to remember how horrible their defense was last year, and they're kind of the same crew. They brought in some transfers, but they looked they lost a couple of their defensive backs from last year, were pretty good, and you thought they were going to be bad defensively, and their two abysmal losses were both pathetic offense. Okay, I'm going to say this. I wouldn't be excited. I would have told Tanner Morgan, no, thank you.
I was just going to bring that up.
I would have said, Tanner, it's been great. You can go into that transfer portal. Somebody will take you. We're gonna move on here, and enough is enough. And you've taken us to, so because you beat Wisconsin the last Saturday of what? If they'd lost Wisconsin, it would have been a terrible season. Okay, it turned out to be a very acceptable season because you beat Wisconsin, but because he played okay, played okay against Wisconsin after he threw an interception for a touchdown. I don't want him back. I want a more dynamic quarterback. I want a more athletic quarterback. If you're going to run that, if they would have had somebody to run the run option when they faked the handoff to one of their great running backs, he could have run 25 yards down the field. They got to have some quarterback coming on, don't they? Some recruit or something. It's time to move on, if you ask me. Nice kid, all that stuff. Great young man, blah, blah, blah. 2 weeks ago, everybody wanted him pulled as a starting quarterback, and now we're supposed to be excited because he's coming back for year 6. Let's, I guess Fleck is no situation where he could tell him no thank you, but I don't know. I still wouldn't be shocked to see him show up in the transfer portal in a week or so after he has a heart-to-heart with the coach. Maybe they don't have anybody. I don't know. Maybe they got Cole Kramer, but this Annexstad kid, apparently he's satisfied to sit on the bench his whole life. And I saw the Clark kid is going in the transfer. It's Clark, right? To go in the transfer portal, the freshman who never got a chance to play. Sure. So, and there was, they
got a hot shot coming in from South Dakota, right? But I don't know if he'll be ready right away.
Not ready to play. So, their schedule, by the way, next year is easier than this year. So they could be 8-0 without being any good next year. So to start with, so they got Iowa here at home, the first Big Ten game, but the 3 non-conference games, Western Illinois and some teams like that. So
the
Western
directionals.
Illinois, Western Illinois is an FCS school, so they're in that same conference as South Dakota and at Mo Valley. So
they can lose to anybody. They can lose to anybody, though.
They can't lose to Western Illinois. Well, they opened with Jerry Kill.
That's right.
What is wrong with him? I got to call him here in a day or two. I got his number and say, geez, what is wrong with you? It's the worst job in America.
He just can't stop coaching. He's like, he retired from here. Then he's had like 6 other jobs since then.
I know. And that was it. For New Mexico State, was that loss at home when his first ever home game and he had a seizure.
Yes.
Remember that?
I do.
There at the end of the game, and we didn't know what was going on, and everybody was terrified. And now he's taking that job. It's the worst job there is. It's still they're moving to the whatever that, they got all that stuff going on. Conference USA is losing all these teams, and then it's one of those, I guess that's the conference that's kind of breaking up. And I think they ended up they're going to some conference finally, New Mexico State. They've been an independent, but that's still a couple of years from now. Why would he do that? Why would he take that job? I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Coaches have the itch. They want to coach.
I know. Las Cruces says, I told you a couple of weeks ago, I felt that he's always been kicking himself in the rear end for walking away from the Gopher job, that he just, the year wasn't going well. He'd taken some criticism. He's a very sensitive guy as far as that guy. I mean, I like him, but he's a very sensitive to criticism. And, and he kind of was feeling depressed, and he was having trouble with the epilepsy, and he walked away. And I bet every day since he's been kicking himself, saying, why did I do that? I mean, he walked away from $8 million, which was then pretty good money. That's now a year and a half for Fleck, but it's, it was $2 million a year or something. He had a contract. I don't know. That's weird, but yeah, New Mexico State, Western Illinois, I can't remember Colorado's here. They're still terrible. And that game is here. So all three of the non-conference games are here. And then they got the Big Ten West. And that's, it's the schedule looks pretty easy until they get to a little later in the season.
They might want to think about reconfiguring the West and East somehow too, by the way, because I think is it 0-7 now the West is against the East in Big Ten title games, and I would
Maturi
be surprised if it was 0-8.
When I talked to Maturi about the slab of bacon trophy when I wrote about it the other day, he told me that Delaney, as the commissioner, was dedicated to the idea of keeping the divisions balanced. And that's why they came up with the leaders and the legends, which everybody laughed about. But it certainly was a hell of a lot better than this. I mean, it's, if Penn State is normal this year instead of below average, they got the four best teams in the conference. That's because Wisconsin, for all the glory of the last two wins over them, has taken a step back. I mean, they're not. You look at the last 3 years; they were bad last year. They were okay this year. They had a nice little winning streak, but they weren't great. And Iowa, they figure out a way to beat you, but they don't impress you that much. What the big difference is? Nebraska being rotten.
Yes,
that wasn't part of the formula.
No,
Nebraska was going to be like the power team, and them being rotten. Yeah, I guess they're just committed to this, doing it this way, but it's pretty ridiculous right now. It was that Ohio State's. How many have they lost since that Ryan Day became the coach? They were like unbeaten in the Big Ten with him, weren't they?
They were on a pretty good run, but that was the first time Harbaugh had beaten them, right?
Oh yeah. That was him putting, that Ohio State team when we saw him against the Gophers way back in August, I guess, or early September. You weren't impressed with their defense, and 13 weeks later, you still weren't. So
right.
That was not a good defensive team. Very good offensive team, not a good defensive team. So. But yeah, I mean, you're right. The two division system has been a complete flop, if you ask me.
I agree. Patrick, really quick at the end, let's talk 3 big wins over the weekend. Wolves beat the 76ers in Philly. That was a pretty dramatic game. I watched the end of that one. Wild beats Tampa Bay. Wild's on a nice little run here. That's 3 in a row. Tampa Bay defending Cup champs. And I heard there was a hockey victory over Edina yesterday too, 7-1.
Yes, it was. We'll go to them bottom to top, right?
Okay.
The Wild, they're good. Man, they're good. Ryan Hartman.
What a bargain he is, right?
Didn't they bring him in to be like a fourth line center to kind of, maybe fill in here and there and make sure he checked like crazy? What's he got? 12 goals? Is it?
Something. He's been on fire.
He scored like 3-4 games in a row. It's amazing. Although somebody who knows their hockey was telling me it's because they're chasing the Russian around, paying all attention to him. And if he gives up the puck, Hartman's getting some room. So anyway, hey, guys like that usually hit the goalie with the puck, right? But he's been getting it by him. So he's been fantastic. And they're good. 14-6, right? 14-6.
I think that's right. Yeah.
And they got a tie loss in there. It's always confusing for us old timers that we got to look over at that other column to see, those are actually losses. But
the moral victory column.
They're winning 2 out of 3. And the Wolves, I had one thought, Mike. This time they blew a 20-point lead and won the game. That is the big difference between these Wolves and the Wolves of the last 14 years or 17 years or whatever it is. They blow a lead and figure out a way to win it.
Yes.
Forever and ever, they blow a lead and then lose it.
Right? They blow a lead and it looks like, did you see I don't know if you saw the end of it. They were up by 3. At the end of regulation, they decided to foul instead of letting the Philadelphia shoot a 3, but then Philly makes the free throw, and then they intentionally missed the second one, and Drummond gets the tip in. So they're going to overtime, and you're like, there's no way. And then they get down 3 in overtime late, and you're like, no way. But then they get 2 buckets, including D'Lo gets a steal, and Taurean Prince gets a difficult layup with like 4 seconds left, and they win the game by 1. It was definitely not how they would have done it before.
With Taurean Prince, who has to play now because you got an injury with Beverly. I mean, they don't play the same position, but it seems like Prince is getting more minutes. And he's a complete stiff, and he bails you out. And then and D'Lo, D'Lo has been pretty damn good last week or so. So, we said this last week, I think, that they're as good as he is, really.
Yes.
When he's a minus 14, and they can't win. But when he's playing good and actually making a pass once in a while and making his shots, they're pretty dang good. And maybe he's getting used to the basketball. Maybe that new basketball. Apparently, this one isn't round because he can't shoot it. So then that's pretty good. And yesterday, Braemar Arena,
yes,
the Woodbury B 12 and under, in the proud house of Edina hockey, right, where the dynasty was created, with a statue of the great Willard Eichel right in front. The Woodbury girls gave him a 7-1 whopping.
Wow.
Edina 7-1 whopping. First ever championship for that team that I've been following, although the cast of characters changed somewhat. But Mike, all seriousness aside, and it's not so much my granddaughter, who's come a long way from the kid who, when she was 6 years old, complained to me that every time she took a shot, this guy in front of the net, this person in front of the net kept stopping it. She'd moved up from Florida. She was not real familiar with the game. She was very upset that this person was in front of the net stopping her shots.
That's hilarious. She's
adjusted to that. But it's funny. They had this one little kid that she played with for a couple of years. And I said to Abby's mom, I said, what happened to that little girl? She said, that's her. She just scored her 3rd goal of the day. She grew 8 inches in the last year. I mean, these kids get physically, as you know, as a father, they get, all of a sudden they have a growth spurt, and now she's great and tall.
Yep.
At least taller, not this little tiny kid. But I ran into Eric Perkins out there, and he's got a daughter who plays. And honest to God, I'm not. We agreed on this 20 years ago in girls hockey. The 12 and 13-year-olds you're watching now are as good as the high school kids were back then. I mean, the skill level is. I mean, they're not taking you out of your seat with great plays or not, but they're coming in and showing the puck to the goalie and taking it away and scoring, and it's phenomenal because. I remember watching Chrissy Wendell when she was a 13-year-old playing against my nephews. She was the best player on the ice, but she would play, if she wanted to score 8 goals again in a girls' game, she could. And now there's quite a few good players, and it's kind of fun, because you go to games when they're 9 and 10 years old out of obligation.
Yes.
Grandfatherly obligation. Now I go because it's kind of fun. They're pretty good. They do some things. It's not just the puck is not bouncing around like a hand grenade. They got they do some things. So it's kind of fun. Yeah. We'll see.
As a father whose oldest child is 7 right now, I do look forward to that at some point.
Yes, right. Softball's the tough one still. I went she's a novice softball player, and she just playing it for kicks with her buddies, but Oh my God, those Eddies can take like 3 hours. It's unbelievable. It's that's hard work. That's hard work. That's
Sounds
for
like
sure.
they got a pace of play problem, Patrick. Taking a cue
You know
from the
what
bigs.
though? I'm a basketball guy, but watching that hockey, watching these kids play hockey when they're 9, 10, 11, 12 years old, it's so much easier than trying to throw a ball up through a net. What I'm saying is that you can skate around and play with the puck, but the basketball it's a long way to throw it up to that net. So it's basketball is just a harder game to enjoy until you get to an older age than hockey is, I would say, for these kids.
Well, the
Like
Gophers. Oh, go ahead.
Kind of like soccer is easier for the kids, certainly than trying to play a more complicated sport.
What a weekend. Gophers get the axe and Woodbury gets the cake. It's can't make it up. It was good. It was a good weekend. Lots happened.
By the way, that's what they call their tournament, the Cake Eater.
Yeah, that's great. I love it.
They do call
it
that.
That's great. That's
Great.
fantastic.
Yes,
Might as well. Got to own it. You got to own it. All right, Patrick.
All right.
We'll see you next week.
Congratulations to Coach Fleck. I've been in his corner all along, and it's about time the rest of you people get on the bandwagon. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Pat.
Goodbye.